Hello everybody, and welcome to a Modern Horizons 2 draft here on the channel. In this video, I go pick by pick and play by play through a Modern Horizons 2 draft, explaining everything so you can level up your thought processes and improve at Limited. If you do enjoy it, remember to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more. And without further ado, let's get to the draft. Here we go, diving into this Modern Horizons 2 draft. Looking at this pack, the rare is actually a reasonable card if you can get Delirium, but not really something that is good in draft. The uncommon is one that I'm a huge fan of, though. It is a great card in the green-white counters deck, which is my favorite deck in the format that I've drafted at least. And it just does everything you want to do. It's got a bunch of abilities, and it gives all of your creatures the ability to gain counters. Bone Shredder is relatively solid, though it is kind of clunky for what it does because you have to pay that echo cost, and there are a decent number of artifact creatures. I think, honestly, the second best card in this pack is Unholy Heat. 1 mana to deal 2 and potentially 6 is quite good, but I'm fine starting with an Arcus Acolyte. This card is great and goes into a very good deck. And then Unholy Heat is my number 2 card in the pack. Let's get the... where's the button for the preview window? I'm losing it. I'll find it eventually. Okay, so we started off with an excellent green-white card. Let's see what we can get to go with that. I love Bannerhide Cruciak. This is one of my favorite cards in the set. The counters ability is quite relevant, and then the Scavenge is really nice, and just a 4-mana 4/4 trample is great. It also goes great with the first pick. What does Timeless Witness do? Okay, so it's a nice value card, which isn't really what green-white is about. Green-white is much more of a get the other creatures dead type deck. Tragic Fall, -3/-3, is pretty nice for 2 mana. I will say that I think that Lightning Spear is a little bit worse than it looks, because you see like, oh, 2 mana and then deals 3, but it's like a 5 mana deal 3. For some reason, I'm having trouble finding the little button that shows a preview window for the cards. But yeah, we're just going to take the Bannerhide Cruciak. I'm a big fan of this card. I think Tragic Fall is also a reasonable card. So we'll keep that in mind as a potential signal. Okay, so we have a great green-white card, a good green card, and then pick 3, there is a Captured by the Legax. I'm just going to jam that. I found that I can almost always end up with the counters deck because I think other people just don't care about it. This Ren's Run Hydra is also good. Smell Fear is great in the deck if you get a lot of counters, but I just like Captured by the Legax. I've had a lot of success playing aggressive decks. It looks like there is some decent black cards coming around, but if we're getting good green-white cards, then I do not mind passing some black cards. There's also a Wave Sifter, which is pretty good, but I've been having success drafting this green-white deck, and I'm just going to keep doing it. Oh my gosh. There used to be a button, I'm pretty sure, but I'm going to stop focusing on it. So I'm just going to take the Captured by the Legax. If I wasn't taking that, I would probably take Smell Fear or the Ren's Run Hydra. Hydra is pretty good. Just worse than the Cruciak, though, I'd say. Okay, here there's a Sanctifier and Vec. Protection from black and red can be really good in certain matchups, even though it is hard to cast. Suit a couple of these counters on this thing, and you do really good stuff. So I'm going to hover that for now. There's also an Abundant Harvest, which is a card that can help you sometimes cheat on lands, which this deck does like doing. So, for example, a lot of the time when I draft an aggressive deck like this, I'll play like 1 Abundant Harvest and then 1 green-white dual land and then play 16 lands. Abiding Grace is sometimes okay if you get some of the little mirror guy that can sacrifice himself. But I think I'm just going to take the Sanctifier. There's just some matchups, even if I only play it as a sideboard card, just some matchups, if I do play against a black-red deck, that card just wins you the game on its own almost. So I like that upside. And now another Captured by the Legax. Really cruising here. This deck is looking excellent so far. The Arcus Acolyte. We got all the cards that we're looking for here. The Captured by the Legax is incredible. Ooh, someone's having a fun time with their motorcycle outside. Okay, and then other cards in this pack. Foundry Helix has actually been more impressive to me than I thought it would. Oftentimes you can sacrifice a card that has modular and then put the counters from that modular creature onto another card. There's no modular cards to demonstrate in this pack what modular is, but basically it's a counters on an artifact creature, and then when it dies, you put the counters onto a different creature. But Here, pretty easy captured by the Lagak. Oh my gosh, I love this card. This may just be like the card that I am highest on in the set compared to the rest of the world. This card has just been great for me. I also like Mere Scrappling. I've been very happy having this as a 1-drop. It's basically like a walking combat trick that also works well with the Prototype. I'm still going to take Prototype here. You don't need that many artifact creatures for Prototype to just like take over a game. Like even if you like get the counters like once every third time, it's still great. What's this do? Okay, I'm not a huge fan of that. But yeah, I do like the Arcbound Prototype, and I would love to get Mere Scrappling. It's not going to wheel here because it is a pretty solid card the decks want, but I am just pretty happy getting the Arc Scrappling. And now a nice little 2/1 flyer. It's also an artifact creature, so it works well with the Arcbound Prototype. What does Karth do? Look at the top 7. Reveal Planeswalker. Oh, so he just gives an extra +1. That's pretty cool, but I don't have any Planeswalkers. But yeah, the Barbed Spike is pretty good. 2/1 flyer for 2 mana is a great aggressive creature. And it just seems like a lot of people are sleeping on the aggressive decks, and I've just been having a lot of success with them. So 2/1 flyer for 2 mana is great, and also works with the Prototype, and gives you an equipment when it dies. So pretty much the dream. Heck yes. Here we go. Arcbound Mouser. You love to see it. Extruder. Sack an artifact to put a counter on target creature. Not a huge fan of this, because I don't like Echo. And a 4-mana 4/3 is not really worth the cost, but the Mouser is quite nice. Works with the Prototype and the Barbed Spike, so hopefully we can get a little bit of an artifact theme going. And now, what's in this pack? There is a Funnel Web Recluse, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm going to take the Bridge, I guess. There's a Tracker, but I'm not going to abandon green at this point because I have 2 captured by the Lagax and an Acolyte. But maybe I open some absurd red card that I want to splash. I'm not going to play the Recluse. Basically, in a format like this, you just, or really a lot of formats, just playing a lot of the most powerful cards you have access to that are on theme. So a 5-mana 3/5 isn't really on theme. Whereas I could see myself wanting that land if I do have like some cards that have affinity or something like that. This card is not particularly good. Marble Gargoyle is sometimes playable. It is an artifact creature, which is relevant for these modular cards, so I'll keep that in mind. And now, wow, Arcbound Slash is actually pretty good. It works really well with modular stuff. I'm going to take the Kieran. Probably not going to play it. It's just too slow. I don't love the Landscaper Kolos. And the Abundant Harvest did come back. I'm going to take that over the Gargoyle. I found that the 3-drop slot gets very clogged, and I haven't really needed to prioritize the Gargoyle. I just have a lot of 3-drops that I care about, and Abundant Harvest could potentially make my deck more smooth to play. Here I'm going to take the green card just so I don't pass any green cards. The little mirror did not come back. I don't mind passing a blue card to end the draft, though. Last pick, Bottle Golem. They're not going to play that, but off to a good start here. Sort by mana value. Master of Death is a reasonable card, but we are just jamming this Jade Avenger. It's basically impossible to block, wears counters incredibly well because they can't block it, and is just a great card for this deck. Overall, if you look at our curve, we have a couple of removal spells there, and then a lot of good 2-drops, which is really what you want to see. We even have a little bit of a minor artifact theme, which is great. The Tireless Provisioner is solid, but not really for our deck. This deck doesn't really care about having a 3-mana 3/2 that doesn't have a ton of relevant abilities. We just love Jade Avenger, though. It can attack super well. What does this do? Storm. It isn't legendary if it's a token. It enters with a counter on it for each other ooze you control. There's also a Urban Daggertooth. And there's a Flourishing Strike. Maybe that would wheel, though. I'm not opposed to the Daggertooth. The Daggertooth does work very well with Captured by the Lagak. Triple green is going to be a tough ask on this if I am trying to play a double white 2-drop in my deck. And it's not particularly powerful. So if I can get a few of them going, I'm just not going to be able to get a few of them going. So it's like a 5-mana 2/2. I don't like playing cards in my aggro decks that need like a lot of stuff to go right. I'm probably going to end up cutting the Urban Daggertooth if I can get more Bannerhide Crew Shocks, because those are better. I might even just prefer Flourishing Strike just to lock up my copy of that. But I would rather use like Crew Shocks, and then there's a really good white combat trick that's also good for that role. But I'm just going to take the Crew Shock. I mean the Daggertooth. I don't think I'll mind playing a copy of it. Okie doke. And there is Foundation Breaker, which is, again, not what this deck wants. It doesn't really care about a 4-mana 2/2. Not really in the market for Yavimaya Elder. I'm actually just going to take the Thornglint Bridge and do that exact plan that I talked about, where I play Abundant Harvest and the Thornglint Bridge, and that gives me the mana that I need to play 16 lands in my deck, which will be very useful down the line. So I'm just going to lock up my Thornglint Bridge now. I'm not really looking to splash, especially not for like a value card like this thing or this thing. I have splashed for Aethersworn Sphinx in a red-white aggro deck before, but that was because I had a lot of like good mana for it, and I had a lot of artifacts to make it a great like cast it for cheap type card. And this isn't going to be an artifact deck. I would not mind a Flourishing Strike though. Okie doke. Herd Baloth. Oh my gosh, this card is so good. You can create a 4/4 whenever I put a counter. So whenever I use a Captured by the Lagak, I get a counter. Whenever I use Acolyte, whenever I use Bannerhead Crucial, I might not even want it though. I might just want Captured by the Lagak. Yeah, I probably just want Captured by the Lagak. I've just found that I don't really care about having 5-drops in my deck. This thing does seem absurd, but again, it's a card that needs something else to go right, and just playing a 5-mana 4/4 after I've already exhausted my cards isn't really what I want to be doing. And I think Captured by the Lagak is just an absolute house. Like, yeah, I'm just going to take the Captured. I do like Jade Avenger too. Jade Avenger's great, but I think this card's slightly better. 2 counters in addition to removal is nice for this sort of deck. And I have a lot of creatures already. I would love this Jade Avenger though. Herd Baloth does look sweet, but I'm just going to stick to my guns here. Now I'm going to take Arcbound Prototype again. Absolutely love that card. Not really in the market for Ornithopter. Don't love this Orchard Strider in my deck because I don't really care about 6-drops, and I'm not going to be spending my early turn cycling. But getting an Arcbound Prototype makes me feel a little bit better about missing out on an Avenger. The more of them you get, the better they are, because like if they kill one, the counters go to the other one, and then the ball keeps rolling. So the more Arcbound Prototypes I can get, the better. Okay, so this pack is a bit of a blank. Really nothing that I'm interested in. There is a Curion Ranger. I'm not going to play Chatterstorm. I'm just going to take the rare in case it's worth something down the line. Okay, what does this do? Shuffles their graveyard into their library. Nope, not interested. Altar of the Goyf. Okay, not interested in that. I guess I just take the Guardian Kieran. But I'm probably not going to play it. Could take Lens Flare, not super interested in it though. I'm just going to take the green card so I don't send any green signals. Green itself hasn't seemed as open, but green-white specifically has. This card's really good. And now we get the Flourishing Strike that I wanted. Perfect. I like having a copy of that. Maybe not 2 in the main deck, but 1 in the side will be nice. Looks like blue-green might be open, but I'm not worried about it. This deck looks excellent to me so far. I just want some more Bannerhide Crew Shocks. That would be excellent. We've already got 3 Captured by the Lagax, which is incredible. We have the Abundant Harvest Thornglint Bridge combo. Could play Guardian Kierans if I needed to, but I don't think I will. Overall, this deck's looking great with 1 pack to go. I only need 7 cards from the 3rd pack. Should be easy to get, especially because it seems like I'm wheeling everything. Sure, I'll take Solitary Confinement. Not going to play it ever, but, you know, I don't mind passing some cards that other decks might be interested in, like that Blue Madness Enabler card, which is actually a pretty good card. I just think Arcbound Prototype is just incredible. I've had enough experience with the card where I'm just like, wow. Every time I've played it, it's felt broken. I wish I had gotten the Fight spell that proliferates. That one's also really good. I don't mind Jewel-Eyed Cobra in these decks sometimes. Sure. Okay. Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. Not super interested in that. But it looks like we didn't get a ton of cards we'd want. Put it onto the battlefield, no. This card's probably... It's probably strictly upside for my deck. Because the way it'll work is it'll help me play like a double green card. So it's probably more helpful to me than my opponents, or help me play 2 green cards in the same turn. Not in the market for Chatterstorm or Squirrel Sanctuary. Just not a great pack, but that's how it goes sometimes. Ooh. Nice little prototype here. You love to see it. There's a prismatic ending, but we're just going to be using Capture by the Gak as our removal, and we're not splashing, really. Yikes. So yeah, Arcbound prototype it is. Happy to see it. And now there's a Jade Avenger. Not interested in that card. Yeah, overall, getting more 2-drops, sign me up. I would like more combat tricks, I think. Flying, protection from artifacts could be a viable sideboard card. Crack Open could also be a viable sideboard card. Not in the market for Disciple of the Sun or another Abundant Harvest. This Flourishing Strike is looking more and more likely to make the cut. Abiding Grace isn't great for me. I'll just take Disciple. Mere Scrappling. Love this card. It's actually overperformed on a massive scale for me. It's an artifact, so it can wear these prototype counters. It can also just sacrifice itself to put counters on things. Also leads to like nice 1-2 punch beatdown draws. So just a nice pickup for the deck. Getting another Mouser is great. This card is not that good. It does have some synergy with the like prototype things, but I'd rather just have a Mouser. And I don't really need a second bridge. I just want another playable. Acolyte. Maybe not the best. Ooh, Knighted Mirror is a great pickup. There's also Break Ties, which I like. But I'm just going to take the Knighted Mirror. Just hits like a truck. It's another artifact creature to help with my curve outs. Break Ties is reasonable as a combat trick, but I think I'm just going to stick with the Knighted Mirror here. If I really need to kill something, I guess I could bring in Lens Flare. And I do have a lot of artifacts. I just don't really want to main deck it. This card could be okay. I have a lot of artifact creatures. I'm going to take a Gorilla Shaman for the collection. They're actually playable in Pauper. I don't love this Disciple of the Sun in the deck. But, you know. Ooh, this card's actually a fine addition. That's why I don't really sweat the 3-drops, because you can just get them. And then I add 15 lands and call it a day. I could see adding Blacksmith's Skill. I didn't get all of the cards that I wanted, necessarily. I wish I could have gotten more Crew Shocks and more like other counters cards, but I think this is actually a pretty solid version of the deck I was trying to build when I kind of first took this Arcus Acolyte. So I'm going to play the Yavimaya Cradle of Growth to help me get like 2 greens in a turn. Not going to play Lens Flare, not going to play this. I could play a Guardian Kieran if I felt like I needed an extra top-end card. It synergizes with Mere Scrappling. Or I could just play 2 Abundant Harvests. So if I go this, so this is 23 and then adding 17 lands. So I can go this and then 1 Abundant Harvest and add 15 more lands, which seems reasonable to me. We're going to definitely want to skew towards white, I think, because of all our early drops. So 8, 7, and then instead of this, we'll add the Yavimaya card. This looks pretty reasonable to me. The cards that I'm mostly missing are the Proliferate Fight spell, the combat trick that can put 2 counters on things and proliferate as well, but overall pretty happy with this build. and we'll see how it does in the matches.
Before I get to the matches, it's me, Nikolai, coming at you from the land of the white light, and I want to give a big thank you to all of the patrons who support my work at patreon.com/NicolaiBolas, and special thanks to those at the credits level: Eric S., Gapio, Stephen W., David G., Arpeggio, Anders H., Cindy W., Jimmy H., Green Drac, Brandon F., Enrique, Capo, and Moostastrophe. I am really appreciative of your support. It helps me continue making videos, and if you would like to join the Patreon, get access to some nice little perks, and support me and my work, I really do appreciate it, and you can find all the information you need at patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. But without further ado, let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to round 1. We win the die roll with our great aggro deck, or deck that could be great. We have to mulligan that, and we... I don't want to go to 5. I think that just makes my odds of winning so low. I'm going to keep it and ditch the Flourishing Strike, and then hope to top deck a land. Sometimes you just lose games, but that's how it goes. If I draw a land, it's all good. Let's go. I think I'm going to start with the Acolyte because it has lifelink. Batterbone. Okay, this card could be okay. I kind of want to go Mouser, put counter on this guy. Or attack, play Jade Avenger. I actually kind of like that better. And then this way I can put 2 counters on next turn. If I draw a land, I can even play the Mouser as well. Okay, the Gargoyle. That's going to fall to my Flourishing Strike. Perfect. Okay. So now I can go play the Mouser. And then I'll be able to go Outlast. Just put 2 counters on my guys. Looks like they might be color screwed. They only have 1 color. And now Captured by the Lagac does a lot of work. Yeah, I don't mind if they attack me. I have really good stuff here. If I get up to 5 lands, I can get a nice 2-for-1 probably. Oh, are they mono white? We'll have to see. Because I am certainly going to go for the kill here on this. Did get it. Nice. They are mono white, it looks like. So I could trade that there. Don't really want to do that yet. I guess I could have also Captured by the Lagac there. But now they have to waste more mana equipping this for 5 to this thing if they want to do that. Wow, they are doing that. Well, that's probably a death sentence, right? I could also just use my combat trick to win it. That's much better. Because then I still have the Lagac. And I can Outlast this next turn. Okay. That's bad. Oh, they just use it right away. Okay. It's much better for me than if they'd saved it to kill my Captured by the Lagac. I'll make this a 2/2 and this a 4/4. Because my Bushido guy's already really tough to block. Okay, so
we've got a pretty decent spot. We got some big creatures. And they concede. Okay, so they have Batterbone. That's good to know about. They also have a Marble Gargoyle, Seal of Cleansing. So I'm glad we have our Flourishing Strikes. Crack Open immediately comes to mind as a card that I could play. Don't really want the Guardian Kieran. Mostly just Crack Open for whether or not I really need to kill that artifact that gives lifelink and stuff. The Sanctifier on Vec doesn't do anything because they don't have protection from... Oh, it does have protection from the Germ token, but that doesn't really matter. They're playing mono white, so I can probably cut the Sanctifier for the Crack Open. Because there's multiple targets, and they're probably going to have some other artifact creatures and stuff. So that was a close one. We mulliganed, and then we hit our second land drop on time, and that saved the game. And they know about Blacksmith's Skill and Flourishing Strike, so we don't want to like leave ourselves just completely reliant on those, given that they probably will play around them, at least to some degree. The Flourishing Strike is probably going to get them just because they seem to have a lot of flyers. An excellent hand. You'll love to see it. We'll keep this. The Crew Shock is great, even just as a 4/4. We can outlast it then and have it as a 5/5 trampler that then gets to scavenge later. Or we can use it to win an early combat and snowball from there. And I don't mind hitting land drops because that's one of my only mana sinks. I actually had a deck that had 6 Crew Shocks in it once, and it felt unbeatable. Okay, right on time, Mouser. Okay, they do. So they do have a second color. They were just color screwed that last game, maybe? Or they're very heavy in that one color. I think I just attack, and then at a certain point, attacking is no longer reasonable because of them having a blocker, and that's when I strike. So they could have a board sweeper, but I'm not going to play around it. Okay, other non-token creatures. You control get +1/+1 and have vigilance, and it's a flying vigilance creature. Sure. So that doesn't currently do anything. I assume they're going to block. Or not. If they don't block, then I get to just deploy my threats. But I assume they'll block. Yep. This is a format where a lot of people play really slow cards, and here we are reaping the benefits of that. Their first play was on turn 4, and now look at how much power we have. Guardian Kieran. Sure, that does nothing. Wow. Yep. They scoop it up. Pretty straightforward win. I'm sure there were a lot of doubters going into match 1, like, why didn't you draft that blue-green deck? It looked like there was a lot of value, and that is exactly why, because you just get wins like this. I've been really enjoying this sort of deck, and we'll see if it can keep carrying us forward into round 2. See you there. Welcome to round 2. Winning the die roll again feels great. Not having to mulligan feels great. Having Acolyte in the opening hand every time feels great. Overall, just a series of great events here. Hopefully we get to see Arcbound Prototype perform here. Oh, they have a 1-drop. The Ravenous Squirrel. Gonna get the Acolyte going. Makes sense to play that first. If they do play something that can block it, we can start outlasting creatures. Oh, Abundant Harvest. What type of thing are they naming? They named... chooses land, so they did need a land.
Let's look at their deck a little bit. They have an artifact thing. They have Smell Fear, Dromedary. So they're a counters deck too. They seem less focused than ours, so we can hopefully just beat them down before. No land, unfortunately, but we'll get a nice attack in. And then play Jade Avenger. Oh, Maya's Cradle was a huge mistake, clearly. Tireless Provisioner, sure. I ain't worried. See, we get a land out of it. What did we show them? Just an Arcbound prototype, sure. So we could double Outlast. Or we could attack with this, play another Jade Avenger. I kind of like getting another Jade Avenger down. Or we could attack with both. I also like that plan. Because I don't want them to start getting treasures. Because then they get free counters on this. So basically every land is a counter for that now. If they choose to get treasures. Or foods. And then pay the mana to sack the food. Does this let them sack an artifact as well? Yep. Okay. I see you, opponent. Okay, Herd Baloth. Sure. So I can attack with everything. And then I can use my +3/+3. They just take it. Okay. We're threatening 5 points of damage in the air. Might get a food token. But Soul Talisman. What's that do? Oh, it's a Soul Ring with Suspend. That card seems really bad. What are they spending 5 for this time? Okay, so they get a few counters and they get a 4/4. They don't get 3 4/4s though, much to their surprise, I'm sure. So this is 4/7. They should have played the Reach creature. So now we just have to survive without causing suspicion. So we will attack for 2. They won't really be that afraid, I don't think. If they make a food. So I can attack and Banner Hide Crew Shock this to hit them for 4. They'll go to 4. I'll be able to hold up Flourishing Strike. And they'll presumably, if they did have a kill spell, they would probably go for it. And then I don't kill them. Or I can put them to 6 and then go for it all in one go. But if they then make a food token, it's much worse for me. So the question is, do I want to go for the Crew Shock line here? Or do I just want to keep them unsuspicious? I think I want to allay suspicion. And then go for a burst kill. They also just might not have a land drop to make a food token.
Could have also outlasted everything. The Knighted Mirror can one-shot them if they're not careful. So we'll have to see if they make a food token. Or if they hold up the mana to sacrifice it. So they do make a food. They have a gargoyle. Seven. So I can double block with these two things and they can do something. But that something presumably leaves them dead to my guy. I'm willing to risk it. We'll see what they have in hand at least. Trading a 7/7 for two 2/2s would be reasonable. And they concede because they didn't know how Bushido worked. Interessant. So it looks like protection from black is not going to be relevant, or protection from red, so that card could definitely come out. We saw some artifacts, so we're probably going to bring in our artifact kill spell. Crack open. Sanctifier Ilvec. We could always, instead of crack open, bring in another abundant harvest. That would never be the worst thing. They seem a little bit weak to flyers, so this could be potentially good. Maybe over the Dagger Tooth. Though I do like Dagger Tooth pumping all my guys. I kind of would like another flyer, I think. Question is, what would I cut for it? Certainly not Crew Shock. Crew Shock is amazing. And this Flourishing Strikes also seem good. I'm just going to keep it like this. And then if I feel like I have a card that is particularly weak, I'll cut it. Okay, great hand again. We're going to get to see the Scrappling do its thing. Mouser into Prototype is a great curve. Oh, into Prototype. Oh, we're living the dream here. Into Scrappling and another Mouser. Into Captured by the Lagac. This is the dream. Okay, they're looking for land still. We're just going to run them over, hopefully. No, they were looking for non-lands. They have a Smell Fear. Good to know. I think that's what they did, though. Game log. Choose a non-land. They have a Smell Fear. Good to know about. Smell Fear is actually pretty good against Capture by Lagax. But unfortunately for them, I have so much modular that it's just going to dumpster them probably. And hitting the land drop is great. I'm going to play the Prototype at first, just in case they have some random kill spell for the Mouser. They would just use it in response, so that doesn't really fix anything. I also know that they have the Hydra as a combat trick, so I'll keep that in mind. I have Scrappling as a pseudo combat trick here. It's not the best combat trick for the deck, because it's not technically a combat trick. Oh my gosh, what are they doing? They're just giving me the game, it looks like. I want to spend every turn. Ooh, that's really good. Perfect. I want to make sure I cast all of my white spells as fast as I can. Like if I hadn't drawn a land there, I would always want to make sure I cast at least one white spell a turn. Like if I had the option, because I only have, if you have a limited white mana, you want to make sure you spend it on the specific cards that it's useful for. I'm just going to play all the modular cards. Next turn I can go Lagac and Scrappling. Don't really want to put the counter on the Scrappling itself. And they concede. After spending their early turns doing nothing, they get completely decimated by an incredible draw. So I was on the draw that game, and on my turn 4, I was going to have 6 power in play, and then go up to 8 power in play with my Capture by the Lagax, and since they just didn't affect the board, they were just getting crushed. So yeah, pretty good match again, and I'll see you folks in the finals. Hopefully we play against a red deck so we can see that other card in action, the Sanctifier Ilvec. Welcome to the final round. We have a mulligan on our hands because we don't have a second land. And we are on the draw. Okay, this is a fine hand, though. Hopefully we can draw a 2-drop. We will get rid of our forest. Our opponent also mulliganed, so we are on even footing, it looks like. Mulliganing is generally more punishing on the play as well because you have less resources. We want to keep as many white sources as we can because of this gargoyle. We have one more draw step to hit one of our 8 2-drops or 4 1-drops, I think. Ooh, the mirror match. Give me a 2-drop, please, deck. Nope. Not happening for me today on the 2-drop department, but that's okay. Deepwood Denizen. That card is pretty annoying. Certainly beatable, though. There you are, right on cue, Mouser. I'm going to play the Knighted Mirror. And I'm certainly not blocking here. There's so many cards that blow me out if I block. Ugh, I really needed to have a better hand this game, but that's okay, no matter. Crew Shock, yep, that's why you don't block. And now we get to capture by the Lagak their Crew Shock. Which actually does work out well because now it doesn't go to the graveyard and this thing gets double strike. And this thing gets 2 counters, so it can at least threaten to trade with their Deepwood Sentry, which they maybe don't have a Denizen, which maybe they don't have a combat trick again. Though I still probably want to wait until I have Flourishing Strike up. Okay, they have captured me with the Lagak. Sure. Okay, so what I want to do first is play this thing, so that this attack doesn't look suspicious. Certainly would like to get a 4-point life swing here. And I'm certainly going to bring in my anti-enchantment card. So I gain 5 life here. Big swing. Big swing. Definitely going to go for non-land with this Abundant Harvest. Hopefully we can see how much, everyone can see how much better this is than drawing a basic land in this situation. I would say I'm in decent shape here. I have 2 more captured by the Lagax. I have a lot of white mana to make this thing scary. Rift Sower. So this is the type of situation where I think Rift Sower is actually really bad in this type of deck, because it just doesn't do what you want it to do. Okay. So I'm going to start by casting the Abundant Harvest. Give myself options. So I got the capture by the Lagak that they now know about. I'm going to play the prototype so that I can put the counters onto the prototype. And then I'm going to attack with everything. And they know I have capture by the Lagak. But I don't think they can stop it, presumably, because there's no discard in green-white. So Rift Sower just doesn't do what a green-white aggro deck wants to do. Green-white decks generally don't care about splashing. They generally don't care about being aggressive. And so it just doesn't do what you want to do. Okay, I have 1 card in hand. My card's almost certainly better than theirs. I'm just going to play with my cards face up so I can pump my toughness on my guy for the max amount. Put my 2 modular creatures bigger. Now everything is bigger than this 2/1. Sure. So they have a 4-3. My thing even survives. This is why I played the land first, because there's no reason to get wrecked by that card when I can totally avoid it like this. And now it looks like we're about going to win the game because of that decision. Losing my 2-2 would have been a big deal, but now they get their Rift Sower, and it doesn't do anything. So they have one card. It has to be a good one. Even if it is, it's likely not enough, because either of these guys dying makes it a 5-5, and that's how it goes. We're definitely going to want to bring in our artifact removal, I think, because we know they have the Gargoyle and a Capture by the Lagak. They have Bannerhide Crew Shock, so they have 2 of those. I only have 1 Crew Shock. Lens Flare can blow out Crew Shock plays, and I have a lot of artifact creatures, so I'm going to keep that in mind, especially when I'm on the draw like this. Crack Open is going to come in, I think. Again, Sanctifier Ilvek is not going to do enough here. So I think I'm definitely going to cut that. Question is for what? Crack Open is probably coming in. And then the next question is, what do I want to cut for Lens Flare while I'm on the draw? Maybe nothing. We'll just do it for nothing, because Lens Flare is not particularly good in a lot of my curve outs anyway. Okay, and we have an excellent hand here. Or maybe not excellent, it's a solid hand. We're going to keep it. This is the case where we're not even going to play our tap land on turn 1. Especially now. Get the Scrappling out. So we know that they have 2 of the Crew Shock. That's going to be a big, important point in this game. Okay, they have Modular of their own. Another Capture by the Lagak. That's fine. Okay. That's reasonable. I am willing to trade my Flourishing Strike for this card. Because while I'm behind, I just want to use my cards to not die. And then I can just draw some creatures and go from there. And I can also zap this with my Flourishing Strike. Which I will do promptly. I do have a lot of creatures in the deck, so I really want to get max value from this Capture by the Lagax. Hopefully I can draw the 4-3 that proliferates. That would be really good. Okay. Tireless Provision doesn't seem like a great card in this deck. It's just a 3-mana 2-2. Okay, that's a good draw. Now I can get max value from my Capture by the Lagax. I also have a lot of planes. We'll see what they get here. Probably going to get a food, if I had to imagine. Though maybe they just want to get all their cards out of their hand. Okay, it's a treasure. I do not care. I will not block into their Crew Shocks. If they play a Crew Shock, I get to wreck it with Capture by the Lagak, which is perfect for me. Yep, living the dream. That's even better, because now I can play Jade Avenger first, so I can put counters on more relevant creatures. I don't want to put a counter on the Scrappling if I can avoid it. Attack for... Oh, I was like, attack for 7. That did not actually how that works. Jade Avenger is so hard to block. So yeah, see, we play around the Crew Shock by being aggressive ourselves. We make them play defense, and then we blow them out with Capture by the Lagak. Just so good. Like, imagine a 3-mana 2-2 that kills one of their creatures, and also stops it from getting its death abilities and stuff like that. Just super effective. Duskshell Crawler. Sure. I'm going to put it on the Tireless Provisioner. Or on itself. So my Bushido guy is going to be a 5/5. Yeah, that actually will trade, even if they have the Crew Shock, to buff their guy up to 6 power, to make it into a 6/4, no, a 6/5, if they put it on the Provisioner. Sure. And I can even sack the mirror if I need to. Yeah, I don't want to sacrifice, because sacrificing would just make that thing go to the graveyard. They just get to proliferate. That's fine. Hopefully I draw another 2-drop creature here. Perfect. That was a great draw. Definitely want to use this on their 5/4. Now put the counter here and on my modular guy. And get in for 4. And now I have a 3/3 that's hard to block, and if it does die, it makes this thing even scarier, or I can make this thing kind of scary. Foundation Breaker, sure. That's a good card against me. Sure thing, buddy. We're still in fine shape. Look at this. Abundant Harvest just doing all the work. Gonna go non-land. The Foundation Breaker being a nice 2-for-1 is scary. They have 2 cards in hand. We have them 8 life, though. And we're only like 1 card behind because we have the same number of lands in play. And we're about to draw a relevant card, hopefully. And remember that we still have this Mere Scrappling to make combat a nightmare for them. They have a Lagak? No, they're playing Crew Shock. Sure. Okay, so their Arcbound Prototype doesn't do anything. We can use Knighted Mirror plus this Scrappling to kill their Crew Shock. And then they have, if they draw a land, they can put the 4 counters onto something. I think I like my odds here. I think I attack with both. They have to block this mirror, or it's lethal, which means they're not as free to block this guy. They don't have any artifacts right now, so I'm going to kill that one. Then I can make this even bigger, and then it'll be a 7/7. So they'll have a chump block. They have a Crew Shock as well. And we have... Okay, so they do hit a land, which means they can put 4 counters onto something, which is not enough to give them a winnable block. Until they equip the Barbed Spike. Sure. They can attack us for almost lethal. And they choose to attack. Okay. Big draw. That's a draw. So if I attack them, this thing won't have trample if they jump block, which they might do. This thing is 7, I don't die still. Certainly want to attack first. I do think I want to keep up the pressure here. And they do chump. This is a big decision point because they don't want to lose to a combat trick, but in doing so, they put themselves in a rickety spot. Because now this plus the, yeah. So now they're in a real bad spot because they don't even trample over. So they have to draw a removal spell. Okay, that doesn't get flying. And they no longer have trample. They do have that food token. But I can always just hold back. But if I do find a way to put counters on, I just win. Make them sack the foods. I did get fortunate to draw some stuff to do here, but they go to 5. Even one food doesn't save them now. And I'm definitely ahead in this particular situation. They have to top deck. Boom! And we get the win. The 3-0, the 6-0. I am a beast at this format. Yeah, I just want to say I've won 4 straight. I've done 4 drafts of this format, and I've won 4 straight trophies in this format. I'll do a little cut, and I'll show you the other 3 decks that I had, but they were all very similar to that deck that we just had. Let's pull it up for one last look. 3-0, 6-0. The only deck, I mean, that last game was close. We had that like out top deck them, but this isn't even the best version that I've had. Just an absolute beast of a deck. Captured by the Lagak was excellent. All of our cards performed very well. And I'm actually undefeated in this format in draft, which is kind of wild to say 4 drafts in, but that's actually how it goes sometimes. 12-0 in the format feels absolutely amazing. And this is a strategy that I would recommend for you if you are doing these drafts. As you saw, a lot of my opponents like just stone cold died before doing anything. And even like, yeah, the cards, all these cards perform really well. The Mere Scrappling just does a lot of stuff. The Arcbound prototypes are just absolutely absurd. Mouser's pretty good. The 3-drops don't really matter. You'll end up with some random artifact 3-drops. Captured by the Lagak is great. Crew Shock is an absolute house. And then you just get some combat tricks and go from there. I mean, pretty straightforward deck. We never got to see the Sanctifier Elvec do its thing. If you were watching this on YouTube and you enjoyed the content, remember to hit that thumbs up button. It does help me out. And if you want to support my work directly, check out the Patreon. It really does help me out. Patreon.com/NicolaiBolas for more information. You can also leave a comment down below to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Leave hashtag counters dominance. Or hashtag undefeated, because didn't even drop a game on the path to victory there. So hashtag undefeated, hashtag counters dominance. Let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video, or just your own hashtag. Your creative ones are always a blast to read as well. So let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more content, and that is going to do it for this video. Other than I'm going to show, I think, the deck lists that I used. I'll just have to pull those up because I do want to display those a little bit. So if you stuck around all the way to get to the end, you get to see a little bit of bonus content on the draft decks that I had that also trophied, and you'll get to see a little bit more of what they have in common. So stick around for that, and I'll see you folks in that. And welcome to the little bonus tour of my trophy decks in the format. You'll notice a theme here. They all have a certain thing in common. I'll let you identify that yourself. So this one was very, very strong. I actually did splash blue for the Aethersworn Sphinxes just because I had so much artifact synergy. Triple Foundry Helix was incredible for burn. I had 4 Arcbound prototypes and 3 Mere Scrapplings for those counters. and Unbounded Potential's a really good combat trick in these decks. Constable of the Realm is also pretty good, and then General Ferris, I actually only needed it one game. I only drew it one game. Arcbound Shikari is absolutely fantastic in these decks, and Power Depot is a card that you can actually sacrifice to Foundry Helix to get that extra counter around. So pretty cool stuff from this deck. The second deck that I drafted here was green-white. Again, 2 Mere Scrapplings, 2 Arcbound Prototypes, 3 Unbounded Potentials. This time I got to play with Smell Fear, which really performed well. Jade Avenger was great. The Mousers performed well. And then the Bannerhide Krushock was a really great card. The Ligak was great. And I had a couple of Deepwood Denizens, but I only actually wanted to play the one because it felt like that wasn't really what the deck was about. And then the one Dusk Shellcrawler actually did a lot of work in this deck too. So another good deck, and the Flourishing Strike performed well. Moving on to trophy deck number 3, again, a lot of the same components. A Mere Scrappling, 2 Arcbound Prototypes. There were a couple Dusk Shell Crawlers, 2 Jade Avengers, a bunch of Smell Fears, and then 6 Bannerhide Krushocks, giving me all the late game and 4-drops that I needed. A Capture by the Ligak, and then Knighted Mirror just really did a lot of work in some of those games as well. And then the deck that you just witnessed, again, Mere Scrappling, Arcbound Prototype. You're seeing a trend here. 2 Jade Avengers, the Mousers. A lot of these cards, you don't have to... I've been able to get multiple Arcbound Prototypes in every single draft because people don't seem to realize how strong that card is. The first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this seems just unreal because it's a 2/2 that dies to put 2 counters on a creature if you build your deck right. So absolutely incredible card. Jade Avenger, similarly, very difficult to block. This one had the 3 Captured by the Ligaks, only 1 Krushock. I was going through Krushock withdrawals. I didn't have any of the Unbounded Ideas or whatever the 2-mana white combat trick is, but that card has performed really well for me in my previous decks as well. So 3 green-white decks and a red-white deck. The white cards in this format seem really good for aggression, especially those prototypes, those Mousers. The Mere Scrappling has actually been very good. I've had at least one in every deck, and it's always been a card I'm pretty happy to see. Just a lot of utility there. Knighted Mirror, actually a pretty good 3-drop. I think it's one of the better 3-drops for the deck, though. Again, you don't have to prioritize those. But yeah, I thought this might be my weakest version, but the cards are they just synergize so well. It makes it really hard for your opponents to block, and even when they do, you end up in a good spot. So definitely a great little lesson into Modern Horizons 2. I recommend this sort of deck if you are drafting the format. It's not that hard to assemble because it doesn't seem like people value those cards very highly, and I just had a lot of fun with it every time I've drafted it. So yeah, that is going to do it for this video, though. If you made it all the way to the super end of the video, leave hashtag deck reviews, and let me know if you found that helpful, and if you'd like to see that sort of thing in the future when I do make draft videos. Let me know also if you want to see more Modern Horizons 2 content. Maybe I'll have to experiment with something on the other end of the spectrum like Control at some point, but so far I'm having a blast with these decks. That's going to do it for this video, and I will talk to you next time.